Okay. All right, so I'm going
right.
to give you a little quick intro, if that's okay.
Sure.
Wonderful. So Brynn actually has presented to us about 4 years ago. And so we're so glad to have her back. And she is a seasoned human resources leader and change management expert who helps organizations develop, grow, and retain their most precious resource, their talented workforce. So please take it away, Brynn. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and you can do whatever you need to do.
All right. Thank you.
Actually, one thing, Brynn, if I understand it, you had mentioned to Don that you had planned on using this recording for within your business practice.
Oh, just as like an application for a facilitating thing.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. The only reason I'm bringing that up is just so that everyone on the meeting knows that. That way, if any feedback or whatever, just
it's only going to be shared with one, it's not really for my business.
Okay. Well, just so anyone knows that they know that any comments they may make or whatever may go beyond this small group. Anyway, yeah, and maybe used for commercial purposes. I just wanted to make sure everyone that was on the call knew that. So anyway.
Thank you. So make sure you all sound extra smart whenever you say something. I'm just kidding. Okay, so is there anyone here who was actually in the room when I did this presentation 4 years ago? That's probably like not even possible, but Trent, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I probably was. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Well,
I may have been, but that was before my last job. So, when I was.
Right.
But I honestly don't. I'd love to hear what you have to say again.
Awesome. Well, I'm just going to share the correct screen this time. And I want, sorry. Is it sharing the right screen or are we seeing the presenter view?
No, it looks good.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So sell yourself for success. I mean, that's the topic of the presentation today. And it's so perfect because you guys actually started off this session, and it feels like I'm assuming you start off each of these sessions talking about yourself. I actually heard, I think it was Tammy who said, I haven't perfected my elevator pitch yet. Well, believe it or not, the elevator pitch is what we're going to talk about today. So you're going to have an opportunity to really workshop and hone that a bit. The objectives for the next 38 minutes are as follows. So this is what I'm hoping you walk away with this time that you're spending with us and with me. You'll understand some key sales tactics. Anybody put a hand up, or one of you're using the Zoom hand if you have actually had a role in sales.
Does having to sell your own services count?
It does. Okay, so we've got like 4. Okay, great. And believe it or not, when I first did this presentation 4 years ago, I had a different name, which was Everything in Life is Sales. I thought I would just kind of like tone it down just a bit, but I do feel like, and maybe some of you agree, that everything in life kind of takes some sales skills. So we're going to talk about some tactics. We're going to explore some of your own internal obstacles, bring those to light a bit so that we know, what you have to work with. Or what you might have to mitigate. We're going to talk about kind of key components of an elevator pitch. And Hari, at that point, I might have you copy and paste, if you can, what you shared when we started, because I could tell you spent time on that, so it's perfect. So if you could put that in, that would be great. That would just be another example for everybody. Before then, you'll have an activity where you're going to actually draft your pitch. And then we'll end with identifying kind of for each of you, what are your next steps. So a few housekeeping. I love this GIF. I'm a huge GIF fan, so you'll see a few of those throughout my presentation. Share your thoughts. So that could be through the chat if that's what's comfortable for you. It could be through using the reactions button at any time during the next 35 minutes to share how you're feeling. I think we're going to skip the breakouts today just because it's a smaller group, but that kind of means please share as much as you can, unmute when you want. We'd love to see your shiny faces, so use video to the extent that you're able. This is more of a workshop than me just talking at you. I feel like while I have wisdom I've garnered over my 14-year career, you guys have a lot of wisdom that really I want to tap into today. And so that means what you put into this is what you're going to get out of it. Aim for progress over perfection. You're not going to come out of today with a final draft or pitch. That's not the expectation. So give yourself some grace to just be a little messy. And then I would recommend having some paper ready if you don't already at this point. So grab some paper, take a minute, a paper and pen or pencil. Gosh, the older I get, the more I'm using pencil, because I just feel like it's such a gift to be able to erase stuff. Okay, so hopefully you guys all have some writing utensils. And so I'm gonna kind of jump into the first little piece of this, which is, this is how I used to think about sales. Anybody resonate with this picture?
Yeah.
Okay, seeing
So
some
much.
hands. Yeah.
Now, I came out of
And-
the car industry, and it's always the car sales guy that is
Totally.
the quintessential example.
Yes. And I think that I want to kind of invite you all to connect with this negative connotation for a second. And then we're going to move on to all the positive parts that is really using sales tactics in absolutely our job search, but then in our everyday roles. So a little bit about me and my story with sales. I actually started in sales. That was my first, who was it? Oh, I think it was Pavani. Is she still here?
She just said she had to drop off.
Oh, okay. Pavani had started off her intro with her first, I think it was Pavani, her first big girl job, or was it Zubida? I can't remember. Somebody said my first big girl job. And so my first big girl job, the way that I talk about it, was being a sales associate at Bloomberg. And this is so funny. It's tying in so much of what was talked about at the start of today. And what really, Trent, you were saying about giving contracts a chance and temp, agencies as they used to be called, because that's how I landed my first role at Bloomberg. I had no intention of being in sales. I was doing CRM administration. And the VP of sales, it was a startup division of Bloomberg in DC. He came over to me with my huge energy and he was like, "What are you doing? You need to be in sales." And I trusted this man, I respected this man, and I took that picture of that car salesman and I put it aside and I said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And I am so grateful I did, because I learned so much in that role that I use every single day, and some of that I would like to impart upon you today. Since then, just so you know a little bit more about my background, so I was a recruiter for several years, and then I went into internal HR at a few of the few large companies around here in Colorado. And then I went more into developing talent specifically. And that's like one of my true passions. And now I'm more in this niche of, okay, how do we develop talent? How do we retain talent during times of extreme anxiety and change? Which is essentially where I'm spending my time these days. And so going now into like kind of tapping into the sales experience that I first had, that I'm like channeling right now. So I thought it would be fun to define what to sell means. So to sell is defined as to develop a belief in the truth, value, or desirability of, to gain acceptance of, to persuade or influence a course of action to the acceptance of something. So as you're reading this, when it comes to your job search, you are what you're selling. So some 4 key sales tactics that I want to focus on today when it comes to sales in the world of job, looking for your next role. I mean, the 4 sales tactics, of course, is know your customer. And there is a place for that when you're looking for your next role, which is understanding, the hiring company and coming up with really good questions during the interviews. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that today. What we're going to focus on is know your product, which is you, have a unique value proposition, and communicate effectively. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on those 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to pause talking for a minute here because I want to hear from you guys. So on a scale of 1 to 10, and please type your number into your chat. How comfortable would you say you are at selling yourself, like today, in this moment? 10 being like you could stand in front of a room of 100 people, or the CEO of Google, and like feel fine selling yourself. Maybe not Google. That's a lot, but all right. So I'm seeing some higher numbers than I normally see. So we've got 3, 5, 7, 7, 5, 2. Thank you for being honest, Tammy. Lisa, we got a 3 and we got an 8. Okay. So this is a great place to start. For those of you who are a little bit on the lower end, you're gonna have a lot of opportunity to walk away with some key pillars of what your pitch might be. And then for those of you who are a little bit higher, it's always a tweaking. An elevator pitch is never finished. Okay, so let's talk about, have you experienced someone who was really good at selling themselves? What did they do well? So this is an invitation to please come off mute. Or if you're not comfortable with that, you can type it into the chat, whatever works for you. But I'd love to hear from the group on this one. And this is for anybody, like who you've been in a hiring position before. And I've heard from a lot of you guys that you've been in some pretty senior roles. So I'd love to hear if you ever had like candidates who were really good at this.
I can chime in. I put some in the chat, but
Okay. Oh, sorry, I missed that.
No,
Yep.
you're totally fine. So what I notice is, especially because I guess I consider somebody good at it when they don't really embody the used car salesman kind of vibe. So it's somebody who's confident and knows themselves well, has really good energy, but also is able to articulate how they can solve a problem or fit a certain situation. So they're very, they're very context aware, they're responsive to the setting. I'm sorry if I'm articulating that poorly, but that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, no, I heard confidence. I heard understanding the setting and kind of, approaching the environment in the right way. So being a little bit agile with that. That was, no, thank you so much. I see energy and succinctness of the target goal. Yes, absolutely, not overbearing, quick to speak up, but not speak too much. Yep, that's a really nice balance that's sometimes harder than we think. Understand the customer needs and pain points, absolutely. And when I worked as a tech support for an IT services sales function, all of my colleagues were really good at this. Thank you, Jerry. I'm wondering, is there like 3 things or a few things that you remember specifically they were good at? I don't know.
They were really good at reading the room.
Okay,
So,
which is what hired is,
because if you're selling IT services, you're usually selling to a committee. So,
yep.
They were incredibly confident, the rejection that just sort of shed off, like, well, there's always another customer, and, when someone tells me no, it sort of, it's a body blow, whether it's selling myself or, something else. And,
Right. Resilient.
and then they were incredibly money focused, which is consistent with a lot of sales guys, it's like, I'm as good as much as I earn, which seemed to be a common theme.
Yep.
Whether that causes them to be good or that's just a result of it, not sure.
Okay. Yep. Money as a motivator for sure. When we are selling ourselves, it can be a lot harder not to take it personally, especially when our livelihood is on the line. Right. There's a lot of, thank you, Hari. There's a lot of correlations we can draw to sales. And it's quite different when we are on the job market and we're selling ourselves versus a product. And so all of us, I'm sure here, have experienced rejection in the job market. And so I think it's just opportunity to kind of to learn, and persevere and continue to hone your the way that you kind of sell yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the used car salesman, the reason that they have a bad rap is they're not interested in you as the customer, right? They're not interested in serving you. They're interested in serving themselves, right? It's they're being predatory, right? That's right. You're there to buy a car. They're there to sell you a loan or whatever, right? They're trying to serve themselves, right? Right. So if and I was an HR manager, right? And so the candidates that really impressed me because it was clear that they weren't there to just get a job. They were there to come in and solve our problem, right? So the standout candidates, it was clear that they had all the skills we needed, right? But it was also clear that they really wanted to be on our team. They really wanted to come in and solve our problems, right? So yeah, we wanted to solve their problem of giving them a good job, right? But they also really wanted to come in and join our team and solve our problems, and that there was a great mesh there. So
yeah, and I think this is a huge topic. There's so much that we could get into here when it comes to interviewing, showing how you understand the client. But given that we have 23 minutes, I want to make sure you guys are walking out with at least some a little bit more confidence in how you're talking about yourself, and maybe to the point where you feel more comfortable talking about yourself with this group next week or whenever the next session is, because I think some of us it really starts in owning our own skills and our own talents, being proud of them and being able to really chalk those up in a way that's going to garner interest in whoever you're talking to. So how many of you guys have heard this thing about the goldfish, like humans have less of an attention span of goldfish? Yeah. So I was actually researching that recently, and it's kind of in the process of being debunked. But anyway, they're saying that we actually have more attention span. Yay, which is great. But I do want to mention this because when you're giving an elevator pitch in a networking event, or you're answering, that really fun question of tell me about yourself with a hiring manager, elevator pitches, we need to make sure that they're concise because we want to grab attention as in the first 60 seconds. So moving into the elevator pitch, this was coined because and there's arguments about when this was coined or why, but but it's really it's really going with that, using the fact that there was, you're in an elevator, so you only have as long as the elevator takes to get down. But thinking about this in the way of we still are limited in the amount of time that we have. And so what we want to do is create something that's really concise and really tight, and explains who we are, what we do, what makes us special, and what we're looking for. So 3 key elements of the elevator pitch for a job seeker. Who are you and what you do? So there's an element of that you guys include in your intro in this group. The second component is, why should they care? Anyone know what WIFM is?
What's in it for me?
What's in it
for me? Exactly.
That means them.
Right. So what's in it for them? Right. And then what do you want? A few things to remember about elevator pitches. 60 seconds or less. It's a concise story that confidently tells someone about your professional brand, particularly when asked, tell me about yourself. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes earlier in my career, when I was asked that question, I was like, is this a trap? Like, what is this question? But I realized it's opportunity for them to test a little bit about you. So that's an opportunity to really to be in your confidence and share your pitch. And it's, as I mentioned, to garner interest for your candidacy. It is not like to really anything beyond that. It's to garner interest. And consider how your pitch relates to who you're talking to, which is, I think, what we heard, from a bunch of you earlier, and certainly Trent, when you're talking about candidates who are really strong at interviewing. It seemed like they knew who they were talking to. Here's some quick examples of pitches. Hari, if you don't mind just throwing yours in the chat so we can see like a more familiar example, but take a minute and just read through these. So as we can see, the last sentence is really going to depend on what your ask is and the context in which you're delivering your pitch. If you're delivering a pitch at a networking event, it's going to be like kind of what Hari, maybe put in there, and some of the ones you see on the screen. But if you're in an interview, it'll look slightly different. But we want to get the core of your pitch ready. So these questions, I think, will help you come up with some of the guts of your pitch. So take a moment. So let's do like 5 minutes. And on, a piece of paper, just write through your answers to these questions. We're not going to do breakout groups just because we're smaller today. What problems do you solve in general? What are the juicy problems that people come to you for? What are your top 3 skills and our talents? And this is your unique value proposition. So in sales, they use this idea of a value proposition. So in this case, it's really, what do you uniquely offer to employers that you want to make sure is captured in your pitch? How do you meet or exceed expectations? What makes you different? What do you want, and why should I hire you? So take 5 minutes and just kind of work through whatever questions are jumping out at you. Yeah, now I wish we had elevator music. And please, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to come off mute or type them in the chat. Yeah, thanks, Don. There's a typo. Number 5 should be, what do you want and why should I hire you? All right, let's take 2 more minutes to think through those questions. You don't have to answer all of them, just whichever ones jump out to you. All right, 1 more minute. All right, so I actually am going to use some breakouts. I really want to give the opportunity to folks who don't feel comfortable going off mute in a large group, the ability to be with just a few people, in case they do want to share. So I'm just gonna put you guys into groups, and what I'd like to ask is, when you're in those small groups, you'll have about 4 minutes. And I just want you to kind of talk through what you came up with in your question, the work that you just did, and start kind of working through what an elevator pitch might look like. And so when you come out of those 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, maybe have, a little bit of an idea of how you might string some of the key outputs of those questions together into a statement, a pitch. All right, so it'll be about 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, we'll see how that goes.
I think it'll be great. We've been actually wanting to experiment with that
Yeah.
before.
I just, people are just, especially introverted people, but even folks are a little bit more extroverted still in this forum. Some people just won't come off mute. And I feel like I've just had to use breakouts to get anyone to share,
Well, I'm so looking forward to hear back from folks when they
Yeah,
return.
so. Okay, so 5 minutes.
Perfect.
I mean, really, this is just like they're just touching on it. Like, I don't want them to think that they need to have one at the end of this, because this is like very small amount of time.
Totally. I was curious, since we have a little bit of time left, I feel like a lot of us struggle with, being able to talk about ourselves or even identify those things about ourselves. I mean, I think those are the places where just having like a coach is so helpful.
Yeah.
Because, it's just like, I don't know, I think a lot of us just have this blindness to it, where it's like, what you've done, and you can factually talk about the roles you've had in the past, but it's just so difficult to articulate that in a way that's, able to really think about what the other person cares about, and really, doing it in a way that doesn't feel icky.
Yeah, right. I think even
hard.
before it's like what the other person cares about, it's like, it took me a long time to be able to say, I am good at this. Like,
Mhm.
I am an expert at this. You want me for this. Like,
Mhm.
that's taken me a long time. But what I see now more than ever is like, that just goes such a long way when you're
Yeah.
interviewing or when you're talking to a prospective client, because people, they trust confidence.
Absolutely. That is such a good point. And even
Real
like,
confidence, not like,
yeah,
egotism.
no, right, exactly. And I think that's the tricky part, is everyone has to find their own way to authentically do that feels right and genuine to them. Because I also
Yes.
think on the other side of it, folks can really tell, right, that it's a
Oh, yeah.
genuine
Right.
version of that confidence that
So it's right. And people, I think folks like in this group need to know that maybe when they're doing it for the first time, it's not going to come off as authentic. And that's okay. But at least it's like multiple steps. It's like, what are your strengths? What are you good at?
Mhm.
Like, even being able to put that on paper and be like, and then put it in words. And then it's sharing it with someone. And
Right.
then it's polishing how you share it.
Yeah, totally. And I think the part that gets harder, at least in my experience, I'm sure that others have experienced this too, is that you also want to tailor that to the specific setting that you're in. So then having
Right.
different versions of it like adds another layer.
Right. Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
But
Right.
it's
But
so
like,
good.
Yeah. I think, yeah, but it's like baby steps.
Mhm. No, I love that. And one thing I was thinking, would be really nice with this group if we are able to pull it off is to have more content. I think you alluded to that in some of the comments you made about like, hey, we get started now, but then next time, you get to practice it. And I think it's just having a little more continuity there.
Yeah.
Where we give each other feedback on our pitches,
Yeah.
if you feel comfortable with that, and practice with each other. Because I think that the side of having someone else listen, because I kind of feel like even if of course they would benefit from getting feedback from somebody who's a hiring manager or someone with hiring experience and even relevance in the industry, but even like I think we're better at really
Each other.
yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
So you'll
Like,
see in
yeah,
one of my next steps is like
love that.
practice with,
Mhm.
or practice in the mirror, practice with, a family member, a colleague, whatever, but practice. Yeah.
It's
I'm
so
going to bring them
important.
back.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for this, Brynn.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. So they'll have a minute.
Oh, cool.
The only thing about breakouts that I haven't enjoyed in the past is, Zoom is right now defaulting to 1 minute. I think you in settings you can change that, but it's really hard to wrap up conversation sometimes in a minute, and then you get like interrupted in the middle of a conversation. You're thrown back into the group, so it can be a little jarring.
Totally. Yeah. I've been there myself on the other
Yeah.
side. Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's the beauty of us really encouraging folks to connect with each other, is that even
Right.
if it's an interruption,
Outside of this.
exactly. Hopefully they can
Yeah.
still continue conversations.
Yeah. Okay. Here they come.
Yay.
Welcome back, everybody. It's good to see some faces before you turn off your cameras again. So does anybody have like reactions from that, like lessons learned, aha moments, or even a draft pitch that you want to share with the greater group? Or what did you get out of kind of that discussion? Maybe start there.
I think that process highlights the importance or value of having an accountability partner, do one-on-one, and really be open with each other about your thoughts.
Yep. Tammy, were you gonna say something?
Who?
You.
Oh,
Tammy.
no, I didn't have anything particular to say.
Okay, it looked like you were maybe gonna say something.
Oh, sorry.
Any other thoughts or reactions?
Well, I guess, some of our discussion, just to throw it out there, is, we had a little bit of a discussion of, oh, well, how do you hone in on this elevator pitch thing when you haven't really refined your target yet? And I guess a little bit of the conversation was just focus on those transferable skills, try to keep it open-ended, especially if you're still refining some of your target.
Yeah, Hari and I were actually talking about that while you guys were in the groups. There's a lot of steps to this, and I think where you're talking about, Tammy, is if you have like multiple, let's say, target companies or multiple industries, which I did hear from some of you do, you definitely are going to want to get to a point where you're tweaking the pitch for who you're talking to, as we talked about earlier. Knowing your audience, flexing for your audience, we all know is important. But it's also baby steps. So I want to invite you in our last few minutes. I just want you to think about that. It's like, I hate that statement, but I always think about it, like taking one bite of the elephant. Like, I don't understand that statement. Who wants to eat an elephant? But it's, one little baby step at a time, and celebrate your little steps. because it's kind of like the first step is to understand what are the problems that you solve. What are you really good at solving? What are your top 3 skills and talents? What are answering some of these questions so that you have these bullet points that you can really look at and own, like internally, like, yeah, I'm really good at this. And say it in the mirror, yeah, I'm really good at this. That's kind of the first step. And then, start putting something together. And maybe, like in my kind of next steps that I recommend, practicing this. Practice it with a peer. If you're not comfortable with a peer, in the mirror, and just maybe see how that feels. Because the first time you deliver your pitch, you're probably not going to feel like a rock star. It might feel a little clunky and it might feel a little weird, and that's okay. It's really those baby steps. And I had mentioned earlier, like continuing to hone your pitch. I do believe that the pitches never end because we keep growing. So it's kind of like continuing seeing this as a living and breathing thing, but starting with just the basics. Oh, you're on mute, Trent. Trent, can you hear me? You're on mute.
I apologize. Yeah, I think doing it in breakouts and workshopping it with other people, right? And just that feedback. So if people do, Don mentioned the accountability partner, and I think accountability is absolutely fantastic, but just getting with other job seekers and right, everyone's vulnerable, right? It's when you're unemployed or when you're between work situations, everyone's feeling incredibly vulnerable, right? And everyone's in the same boat, right? And so everyone's feeling a little bit insecure and, like I said, vulnerable, right? So just getting with other people that are in the same boat and just practice, right? Do your elevator pitch. What do you think, right? Let me hear yours. And just workshop your elevator pitches. The other thing is, I don't know that many people know about it, but in newer versions of Word, there's a functionality where Word will speak your document for you. So you can type out your stuff in Word and then have Word read it to you. So you can wordsmith it and Word will actually read it to you. And it's great for you to speak it as well, but then you can hear it. And oftentimes then you can tell the cumbersome writing when spoken to you, you go, oh, that's terrible. So anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe there's someone you met in your little group who you want to be an accountability partner with, or someone else. But I do think that in this, it's scary. So we as humans sometimes feel less afraid when we're with someone else who's also scared. Right. So some recommended next steps is maybe find a buddy. And continue work on developing and refining your pitch. I talk about professional brand because that's kind of an element of the pitch, which is like, who are you? If you were a product like on the shelf in King Soopers, like what is your brand? What do you represent? I have some additional resources, like a ton that I include in this deck. That you can feel free to kind of dive into more, which and some of that is your professional brand, but also don't go too nuts with the resources because sometimes it's too much information. And then practice. So with that, I'd love to go around. I know we're a few minutes after, so to close the session, I would love to just go around and have everyone share one word that kind of represents how you're feeling in this moment after talking about this topic, and just after this whole hour and a half. So I'm gonna call people out. So I'm gonna start with you, Steve, because your box is green on my screen. Steve Nude.
My box is green. What's that?
I don't know why. Yeah, it's like highlighted in green on my screen.
Okay. The only thing I would say is I just have one question is about can you send this thing with all the links on it, can you send that out to everybody or?
Yeah.
Thank you. And all I can say is that this is just really hard work. So.
That's fair. Thanks,
Yeah.
Steve. Thomas.
One word, maybe review, because we all have elevator pitches, right? And I have one before, so I'm going to review what I have against what you're recommending and see where I can tweak and improve.
Love that. Thanks, Thomas. Lisa.
I would say encouraged.
Thank you. And
Thank
Lisa
you.
Mitten. Oh, there's two Lisas.
Oh,
I'm not sure if it's energized or just hopeful, but I think it's closer to energized.
Okay. Thank you. Leanne. She's on mute, so she might need to unmute. Oh my God, there's three Lisas. Wow, you guys, I didn't realize that. Lisa Lisa Lamunion.
I would say confident. Confidence to move forward.
Thank you, Lisa. Tammy.
I put in inspired.
Thank you. Henry.
I feel energized.
Jerry.
I think I'll go with Thomas at review. You know, I've had an elevator pitch before. The fact I wasn't able to spiel it off immediately says, okay, now I need to go back to the notes.
Awesome. Stephen Stump. Now I realize we have two Stevens. Well, we have one Stephen, one Stephen.
Very similar to what Jerry and Tom just said, but use a different word, refresh.
Refresh. Love that. Thank you. And organizers, you have any thoughts, any words?
The one
A quick announcement, I put in the chat a link to the Boulder Workforce Center's workshop schedule. Historically, they have a workshop on networking, which is the first time I ever was acquainted with the concept of elevator pitch. That workshop isn't presently on their calendar, but anyway, it's there anyway. The link is there for their current workshops.
Ari?
So the word that came to me was practice. And I really appreciated whoever said refresh, because I think you know, we always have to remind ourselves that the old one might not be accurate anymore. And so that's really helpful. But then practice and just, you know, try that. And I also just wanted to say thank you and just remind people of something you said, which was, you know, it's easy to get overwhelmed with this. And so just like keep it simple and remember to kind of go back to those basics and make it really yours. I think is so important. Thank you so much for this. This has been great, Brynn.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
yeah, I'll share this slide, the resources slide, with you guys in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Great. Awesome. Well, it's been so lovely to have you help us out through this. I really appreciate your time, Brynn, and we hope that it won't be so long until we get to see you again. We get to work on all of these awesome things again. This would be lovely if we had a follow-up. You know, so one of the things that you and I touched on while folks were practicing was that, you know, and I think it was mentioned by some of you guys coming back in, the importance of us practicing these things. And Brynn made the suggestion of, you know, next BoulderNet, practice your elevator pitch, right? We would, if you want feedback on your elevator pitch, instead of feedback or in addition to feedback about your actual ask, you know, make sure to say that, and we can give you feedback. And also we have our open networking at the end if you want to do that, or if you want to connect one-on-one, like one of our co-organizers suggested, in having an accountability buddy. I think those are all great ways to continue this amazing work that we did today.
Yeah, I mean, repetition is the mother of skill, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Brynn, we've got some folks asking for your contact information. So is
Yep.
there,
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on the resources slide.
love
If
that.
it's okay with everybody.
Of course, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. Excellent. Thank you everyone for attending. And I appreciate everyone staying a little bit longer, especially you, Brynn. We have just a reminder that our next meeting is going to be, I believe, the 3rd of August. Am I correct about this, Don and Trent? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Yeah, it's the 3rd, and
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
and I'm trying to recall, I don't have it in front of me.
Mitchell
Well,
Fournier.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, about introverts.
Yes, about introverts, exactly. So we would love to see you then if you're available. And I think we will be closing things. Actually, we could stop recording if you're ready for that, Brynn.